All right, everyone. Welcome to the Dancers Beat podcast. I'm very excited. I have a special guest this week. He is Mr. Duncan Cooper. He trained at San Francisco Ballet. He was the first recipient of the Lew Christensen Scholarship for Outstanding Male Dancer. He then joined the Dance Theatre of Harlem for 9 years as a principal dancer. He went on to perform a multitude of lead roles with New York City Ballet, Washington Ballet, Royal Birmingham Ballet, and he is currently a renowned choreographer and master teacher, and he is the founder of Duncan Cooper Workshops. Thank you for joining us on the Dancers Beat, Mr. Duncan Cooper.
Of course, thank you.
Uh,
Excited
so
to get into it. Let's do it.
Yeah, and so Duncan and I also were just at UBC Shanghai, and we had a fascinating. We could have recorded a podcast in the back of the van on the way to Disneyland, and it would have been a great
Yeah.
podcast. So
Uh,
hopefully we can duplicate that. I think we will. Um, but let's get started at the beginning. So when did you begin dancing? What was the initial spark of inspiration? And how did you then take it from there to formally start training?
I started dancing when I was 5 years old um, at a local ballet school. I think it was on 86th or 83rd in Columbus, the School of New York Ballet. And um, at that time, my mother um, was playing piano there. She was the accompanist.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and just to back up from that a little bit, both my parents were classical musicians.
okay.
So my father's African American and my mother is Caucasian. They grew up in the 60s when a time having an interracial relationship was challenging. Not that it isn't now. It's just the country was in a different space. The reason I say that was is that they both were classical musicians. My father had a little bit more of a harder time getting jobs as a classical musician because at that time, my understanding is that they auditioned like that. I think they still do now. They audition behind a screen, so you're not really looking at the person; you're listening to the music. And that wasn't the case so much back then, and it's just basically harder for him to get a job as a classical musician because he was black. But my parents did play in. I think Dennis Digateau went on to be the conductor for San Francisco Ballet. Was the conductor at the time, I think, for the World Orchestra, which was an orchestra of multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-international um, musicians there. But eventually, it worked out that my mom was getting more of the jobs. My dad was having to do more pickup work um, with I think he performed in Dreamgirls on Broadway, Camelot. I think he even played in the Barry White Orchestra. I mean, he did all this incredibly, I think, is amazingly cool stuff.
Yeah,
Regardless, but when you're not exactly doing your passion,
yeah.
you don't really see it that way. I was blown away by all the different things that he got to do. So I mean, my mom went on to play in New York City Ballet Orchestra and San Jose Orchestra. So as a young kid, I also got to see New York City Ballet on stage from sitting in the audience and backstage on some of these Broadway shows and seeing all these artists really stemmed my unconscious desire to be an artist and to be on stage and to perform. And the performing that caught my eye the most was dancing. Um, yeah, so that's how it started. Um,
What a great upbringing for an
and
artist.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy growing up in
Yeah.
New York, little kid in the 70s, um, into the 80s. So that eventually my parents got divorced. My mom moved to California. That segued into me joining the San Francisco Ballet School. My mom playing for the San Jose Orchestra. Before San Francisco Ballet School, I was with Santa Clara Ballet. The Andre Reyes' parents really were my first ballet teachers out there. Andre Reyes is one of the great San Francisco Ballet principals. So I kind of segued to San Francisco Ballet School, a sort of connection that filtered me that direction. And from there, I got start. I had a full scholarship. Ended up getting the Lew Christensen Scholarship for best outstanding male dancer. Uh, the Kirby Scholarship as well. I didn't have to do my, I didn't get in. So my last year in the school, they have an award ceremony, and this is my senior year. And Helgi Tomlinson, who was the new director at that time, came out, and I was excited because I was like, all right, hopefully I'm going to get an apprenticeship in the company. My dad was worried that I wasn't going to get one, and he had already bought a plane ticket for me to fly to New York to do some auditioning there if I didn't get my apprenticeship, and Helgi went up to the podium, he announced all the apprentices, and he didn't announce my name. So I was shocked, of course. He walks away from the podium, then he walks back to the podium, dramatic, and then he announces my name and said, oh, by the way, Duncan Cooper will be entering the company as a full company member, which just really wasn't done at that time. So get my apprenticeship and go straight into the company as a company member. So that was really, really cool. And looking back on it, I feel very blessed. There's so many times that as gifted as I was, as many other dancers were gifted, being in the right place at the right time to receive all these crazy blessings throughout my career is pretty phenomenal. Then I joined the company, and I got I had 3 knee surgeries over a 2-year period. I was just dancing a lot. I was the dancer that never marked, always full out, and I was right on the cusp. I was doing a lot of soloist work, getting the opportunities of that, and as in the core. And that was that period where I really felt like I was on the cusp of getting my soloist contract. And that's when I got this knee injury, and I rushed back from the knee injury and ended up on the operating table for a second time. Then I got a blood clot in the same area, and operating on the knee the third time. By that time, I'm going into the operating room, and I already know who's doing my surgery on my knee, and everything. They're like, Duncan, like, here he is again. It was kind of a sad, funny joke, but
when you get to know the surgeons real well.
yeah, an anesthesiologist. Yeah.
So what age were you when you were having these consistent surgeries?
21 to 20.
Oh, geez.
21 to 23.
Okay.
And I had gotten so depressed talking about mental wellness for dancers that I had this thing, I guess they call black tongue, where I would go to sleep at night, I'd have all these terrible nightmares and wake up in a sweat every morning, and I would bleed from my nose onto my tongue.
Oh.
Craziest thing. And I ended up, this is how bad the stress got, I ended up getting these lumps on the side. My lymph nodes were swelling up on the side of my neck. And so we went and went to the doctor, got some blood work done and a biopsy, and they thought I could have anything from this to that to lymphoma cancer was the main thing they thought I might have. Really just all due to stress, which just blows my mind at how stressed out I was. I mean, this was my everything. I didn't know anything else.
Was it because of the injuries that you were that you were getting
because
stressed?
of the injuries? The stress had become so bad that I was having this reverse nosebleed. I don't know how to explain that in any other way than that. And my lymph nodes were swollen, and my neck was just so tense. And the best way that they could relate it after, and they ran more tests after that, was that's what it was. Crazy. I wasn't sleeping well. So it was crazy. Had the knee surgeries, got another injury and in my hip, and had to basically back out of a tour. I had this epiphany where I realized, it's a lot of time in between this. I'm trying to make this fast and I'll bore you guys.
No, take your time.
I recovered from those knee injuries, learned a lot more about my body. I actually, I look at injuries as an opportunity to learn more about yourself. I learned more about myself, what I was doing, the flaws in my technique, how to, just a ton. It's an opportunity. Even what you see is failures or mistakes. I had to refigure my mind out from understanding that I am not a bad person, or I am not doing something wrong because I got injured.
Right.
That these things happen, sometimes regardless, out of your control. It's another really challenging thing to do as a young dancer when you don't have mentors that have gone through these types of experience. I had mentors there like Andre Reyes was one dancer I idolized. Christopher Boatwright was another. Tony Randazzo, who actually is the ballet master at Boston Ballet, actually stayed at his house after the last surgery. He was a he really is one of the only mentors I had that really helped me, talk me through injuries. He had a lot of physical challenges um, as a dancer, and was really able to communicate ways to find a way through that, not just by leading by example, but just a lot of the conversations we had. It's very helpful. So mentors are very important. Mental stability is super important, and it's something that we realize in this generation more is so important for young dancers.
Yeah.
Not so much back then. Back then,
Yeah.
it was either you either going to do it or there's 15 other people waiting right down the hallway to take your job. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how it felt. There wasn't a lot of conversations about all that stuff. So I had to figure out how to pivot and shift and maneuver and figure that all out. I ended up getting another injury trying to substitute in other areas of my body and my hip. And I remember with the knee and the hip and these other things, I had just become so beat down, to make a long story short, at my end of my time at San Francisco Ballet, and where, in the pressure of beginning to do all the soloist work, and Helgi alluding to me, that I'm on that list up next to get my soloist contract. I ended up having an epiphany and deciding to take a step back and ask to be taken out of my contract, which no one ever does. You don't go in there and say, I need to take out my contract, which is what I did. I don't think me going on tour would be the best thing for me and my body. I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
I felt like I was just dragging myself just to the start of that. And to my surprise, when I went and talked to Helgi in the office, he was not as upset as I thought he would be. I mean, it's a challenge to find somebody to replace, but he was actually very supportive and kind of, what I took it to, is a little bit impressed that I made such a responsible decision, although it might have been a little late.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a year off, asked to be taken out of my contract. That ended up with me going to New York. And with this time, my father, who, by the way, was the orchestra contractor of Dance Theatre of Harlem,
Okay.
had a connection already with Dance Theatre of Harlem. The director of Dance Theatre of Harlem, Arthur Mitchell, and founder, sometimes came to Sylvia's Soul Food Restaurant, which is the most famous restaurant in Harlem.
I used to live
Soul
right
Food
by
Restaurant in
there.
Harlem. Right. My dad was the general manager there for many years. Sometimes Mr. Mitchell would come by and eat there. They would talk. So Mr. Mitchell was always sort of checking up on me through my dad. How's he doing over there in San Francisco? What's going on? Da, da, da. Well, my dad told him that I was taking a year off, had all these knee surgeries, just wanted to take a step back, rethink everything. And he offered through my dad for me to come and stop by at the Dance Theatre of Harlem building. Dance Theatre of Harlem, as a person of color, was a company I just admired. You had all these beautiful hues of African American dancers and Latino dancers there. Obviously, it is a renowned company that gave opportunities to dancers of color at a time when they weren't getting a lot of opportunities. Arthur Mitchell is a iconic figure within the dance community. He's African American, was one of the first in the New York City Ballet, but regardless of his color, to me, he was a phenomenal dancer,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Yeah.
Full stop, the sentence. And at the height of his career, he decided to stop. Pretty much could continue dancing and create a school up in Harlem, which then became Dance Theatre of Harlem, which then became this incredible company in the 70s. It toured everywhere, so on and so forth, blah, 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 on and on and on. And so I had known about it, obviously, since I was a kid. And Arthur Mitchell invited me through my dad to come and take company class. I'd been there once or twice before in the building. So I came there, long story short, he offered me a principal contract, said, take as much time as you need to take care of yourself. This contract is here when you want it, which is incredible. And I eventually took him up on that and had this 9-year career there, dancing some incredible works that dancers only dreamed of at that time. At that time, you still really wanted to be in a company. The goal was you started as an apprentice or a core member and you worked all these years to become a storied principal in that company. I'll use it, equate it to football. Now you have all these free agencies, but back in the day, the idea was to stay with one team your entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And when I was dancing, that was still a thing that people tried to obtain. You got a lot of respect for that. And that's still the story now. It's just can be a little more challenging because dancers can jump from company to company a little easier. So a little more of a free agency approach that's available there more now. So I spent 9 years there, toured the world, danced roles I thought I never would get the opportunity to dance, work with some of the foremost choreographers of my generation at that time. It was incredible. So did a lot of guesting, like you alluded to, with Royal Birmingham Ballet and New York City Ballet, and just a lot of amazing things. And then went on after that to eventually funnel into a teaching career. I had a period where I kind of got lost when I stopped dancing and I retired, like anybody does, and tried to refocus and find what my passion was. I sort of fell into teaching, and I realized that I had a passion for it and I really loved it, and that just grew and grew and grew.
Fascinating.
And from there, I became a teacher. I was teaching at Lines Contemporary Ballet, the summer program, a little bit of the year-round program. I was everywhere, and that funneled into teaching all over the country, um, which funneled into that expanding in choreographing. But also one thing that happened during this time was Joe Lantieri, who is the founder of NYCDA, which is still one of the biggest commercial dance conventions. I was on tour in Europe, and I got a phone call from him, and I was in California visiting my mom. I don't know how he got my number and how he knew I was there, but he called me up. They had a judge that wasn't going to be available to judge there. I went and judged the competition. I told him at first, I've never judged before, like I'm not really interested in this. And then he told me how much I could get paid. And, at that
You're
time,
like, I'm interested.
it was a lot of money. So, for 2 days of work of
Yeah.
judging, okay, why not?
Yeah.
They don't make a lot of money. That can be very helpful. So I went and did it. This is back in the day when you had a cassette tape player. Remember those?
Oh yeah.
And you had cassettes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z, and then double A, double B, double C. And each cassette was a different studio. So they would announce, and so coming off dancing for so and so, da da da, cassette C, whatever it was, and you put that cassette in. And I remember the judges to the right and left and were like, all right, whatever you do, don't mess up your tapes because you're gonna have a hard time finding them.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, by the end of like an hour, the tapes were in a big pile, and they would call one, and I would like be freaking out to find where it was.
Oh my God.
Anyway, that opportunity that Joe gave me also provided a financial platform, as I was sort of transitioning from guesting and ending my dance career, a financial platform, but also an opportunity to meet this whole different world of studios. The studio world is this whole other dynamic in reality. You've got people that may have decided not to be a teacher at a major ballet company or wherever, and they decided to open up their studio somewhere in the country and open up a small ballet program, a contemporary program. But these things can actually be very lucrative, and they now have created a whole financial feeder system of their own. And it's also where a lot of the dancers and dance companies came from. They came from small studios at first.
Yeah.
And some of these small studios aren't really small studios by name. They've turned into these big machines that are turning out some incredible dances for the commercial world, for for the commercial world, as in Hollywood, videos, show world, as in Vegas and Broadway, and fine arts, which is, ballet, these small contemporary companies that have incredible tour schedules. I mean, they've been, a stronghold in helping the whole industry grow. It is its own industry, the small studio world. The commercial competition scene is its own industry in many ways. And so that opened up a whole nother world to me. As well as I started to meet other judges and professional artists who didn't come from the fine arts system, that came from completely different dance worlds that had their own concept of monetary wealth, of financial stabilities, financial systems of how they're structured and they functioned. Um, just a whole paradigm shift of how to look at how people are creating their art, how people are creating their money, how they're creating their financial stability. Um, it's just fascinating to me. So it was able for me to see outside of my bubble and learn how to take pieces from other things that people were doing and see if I could add them to my world, and not just from a financial viewpoint or structurally from a business viewpoint, but also from watching how different choreographers created their works in their environments. It's very different from each area, as much as different choreographers have different ways of working and approaching their work. So it was fascinating to me. And at this time too, there are a lot of artists, sort of a lot of young choreographers that were not really in the ballet world that got their start. Some of them in the sort of commercial world, or just choreographing outside of that then became so popular that, and worlds were merging. This is a time when Martha Graham, you would never in a million years think Martha Graham would be, you'd ever see a Martha Graham piece performed by a ballet company, and then ABT did it. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
About what time,
So you had
year-wise, did you start noticing this merger?
in the 90s, in
Okay.
some ways, I was seeing a lot of that. And yeah, just different things that were happening. Worlds were opening. You had William Forsythe, really, for example, is one of those people that really pushed sort of what I consider contemporary ballet, contemporary dance. I mean, we first did William Forsythe's work at San Francisco Ballet. It was like, what?
Yeah.
And wow, our minds were blown. And he was really pushing things at that time. We have people in the audience who walked out of the audience at the San Francisco Opera House because they could not wrap their heads around what they were seeing and what they were hearing too. And it was just so far of a departure. Those pushes have to happen. There have to be people
Yeah.
that push that. Um, Now his work is still incredible, but it's not the farthest push of contemporary dance. Obviously, in it's happening in the ballet world anymore. It's almost very much ballet compared to what we're seeing now.
Okay.
What's being tried now, what the Crystal Pikes are doing, and all these other artists, and there's a whole generation of dancers that grew out actually of, for example, Billy and what William Forsythe did. They're now pushing what he did and pushing it further, and people from other completely outside approaches are adding to it. Gaga's and others. There's just so much. I get so overwhelmed when we were talking about all this, but it's, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. What I think of is a lot of times innovation in genres like that is not met with like open arms initially. If you think about like Bob Dylan, when he started playing the electric guitar, people were like, this is not Bob Dylan. This isn't what I came to see. And now you look back on Bob Dylan's, repertoire, and that's some of his best work. However, at the time, it was not, seen that way at all.
And the music industry has changed during that
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right? Uh, it often, what the artists are doing can often change the industry as well as the industry changing what the artists are
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
I mean, you and I talked in the back in Shanghai in the back of the van about what's happening in film right now,
Right.
as far as this whole push to the digital platforms, away from the things that you and I grew up loving, which is going to the theater with this whole audience and the popcorn, the big screen. It's changing now for better and for worse, and that digital change is also affecting dance, which is a whole other topic. But my point is that there are powers that be and processes that have to be pliable enough to receive that change and be open to pushing that change a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, for God's sake, Mozart, he wasn't the prim and proper person. He was
No.
really a little, yeah. So I mean, for example, I'm always fascinated to find out who are the Mozarts of our generation now in dance. Who are those? It's important that we leave space for these new people to try things and push things.
Absolutely.
And you see companies doing that. I'm actually going to going back for the second year in a row to choreograph at Kansas City Ballet. Devin, the director, has given me an opportunity to come back over some of the company dancers, and it's a program that's about sort of pushing forward dance a little bit, trying some new things. And a lot of different ballet companies have those sort of programs where they allow choreographers, emerging choreographers, or just well-known choreographers to push the gamut a little bit of how they're approaching works and choreography and different things. It's important as much as the classics are important.
Yeah.
No, good dancers right now. This is the other thing. Most dancers that want a professional dancer in a ballet company, you're not. You really have to be able to delve into contemporary. It's really it's almost as a ballet is a prerequisite. You got to have all those things, and then what else can you do? If you're, it's a wonderful opportunity to be seen if you're able to dive into some of the more new contemporary works that are being provided on a bill. You may not get that shot in a big classic work like Swan Lake or Giselle. You might get a core spot, but if you get a new choreographer comes in and they like somebody in the company who's an apprentice that does really well, they might go in there and battle for that apprentice. And, the director might say, well, I need you to use these people. And they go, you know what, that apprentice is killing my choreography and I've got 2 weeks. I want them in my piece. Well, I've never used them before. I want them. The discussion, the debate goes, you get your new young apprentice who goes out there and kills it. This apprentice has now gotten the eye of the choreographer, which leads to the eye of the director, which then gives the director more confidence in them, which leads to more opportunities for them. Yeah. So there are more, and also just from a audience viewpoint, you want to create new works, new ideas, anything to get the audience into the theater. And in my opinion, Swan Lake, Romeo and Juliet, the classics are great, but it's not enough to get a modern audience in. Whether that means it's a remake of Romeo and Juliet. When I was at Dance Theatre of Harlem, we had the Creole Giselle, which is sort of a spin on Giselle. So just anything that you can get your audience interested into, wanting to come to the theater, and not just come to the theater on multiple nights.
Yeah.
I'm trying to cram everything quickly.
No,
so
no, it's we have plenty of time here. You did touch on something. One, I think for our young dancers, it might be a good idea. You brought it up to check out the movie Amadeus, if you want to see just how Mozart was received in his time.
And to add on to that, don't just watch the movie dancers, because the movies, as much as they're great to watch, they're never totally factual.
No.
So also, if you're interested, pick up a book, do your research, and really learn about the real realities of these artists. Sometimes we're such a visual, and particularly this visual generation. I want to inspire them to delve into, really learn the factual history of these individuals, because it's Hollywood. Sometimes they're going to blow things up in ways, but don't.
Pretty much all the time they're gonna be hyperbolic. Yeah. But you've touched on a little bit a couple of times with the injuries and now with innovation, generational differences. One, if we could go back to your journey with dealing with injuries, and here's another thing I'd like to say is, like, you brought up football earlier. I don't think the average person who is maybe they're an admirer of the arts, but has a very tacit understanding of ballet. Maybe they watch the Nutcracker every. I don't think, and I certainly wasn't aware of this. I don't think they're aware of the injuries that you all deal with. I mean, when we were in the back of that van in Shanghai, I asked. It was you, Evelyn, Lisette, and David, and I was like, because I've talked to all of you now on the podcast, and you were talking about surgeries and stuff, and I was like, it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, oh, so you've all dealt with catastrophic injuries? And everyone was like, yeah, across the board. And we had Daniel Aiella on last week talking specifically about injuries. But I don't think the average person is aware of the grit and fortitude and toughness that a ballet dancer has. It's not something that anyone would really think of unless you're in that world. And as someone who was not involved in the ballet world growing up, and now as I've hosted all these shows, I've become an admirer. I mean, the things that you all do with your body is not something that the average person can even come close to doing. And to do it on a
Yeah.
regular basis, there's no way you're not going to have injuries. And you were talking about you had to tell yourself, "Oh, it's okay that I experienced these injuries. There's nothing wrong with me." Um, if you could just talk about a little bit of how you dealt with that and how you would want to impart a lesson on to a young dancer right now who has worked their way up the ladder at a company or is just beginning their career or at any time in their career and is suffering an injury and a debilitating injury and is maybe dealing with like identity loss of this is who I've been my whole life and now I have this injury and I can't move like I want to move. What kind of advice would you give them a little bit about your journey dealing with that?
It's important that you start figuring out the difference between this is a pain that I can push through and this is a pain that I need to stop right now and take care of myself. You need to understand that regardless of how strong you feel the power dynamic is between you and your director, between you and your parents, um, you still have more power to affect change in your career and your life than you realize. And that might mean being brave enough to go up to your ballet master, brave enough to go up to somebody in the company that you trust that might be older and bounce off some of the challenges that you're having that you trust to find the right answer that you need. And it might mean you have to be brave enough to give up something for the moment to gain in the longer range. Meaning, I can't. I'm hurt. I can't dance. And often, what you perceive as a negative is actually it's a weird reverse compliment. Like you might say, I can't do the show. I can't dance. I'm really hurt. I need to rest. So on and so forth. And the director or whoever might freak out on you, and usually that's because they need you, they want you, you love you, you're great. Ah, um, it's actually that's a reverse compliment as opposed to like, oh, whatever, and they don't,
Yeah.
you're not really that important.
We'll be all
um,
right.
so right, you need to understand that you need to take care of yourself first, and it's so scary as a young dancer because all you want to do is please your director. You want to be successful. You work so hard to get to this point. Um, you may be in a situation where you can't even communicate to your parents because so just being brave enough, and that might mean taking a few quiet moments with yourself, wherever that's it, and really taking a step back, even in your head, and really assessing the full situation. Well, I know I'm not going to make it through the show. I need to, and I know if I hurt myself even more, I won't be able to do the next 10 shows. So would I rather them be upset with me that I can't do this show, take care of myself, and then be good for the next month, or just go on there, go balls out, hurt myself really, really bad, tear, snap something, and now I'm out for the rest of the year? Like you have to really sort of weigh those things out. And that's a lot to ask of a young dancer
Yeah.
that's just used to being, all in all the time. And you see this in sports all the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Sometimes in San Francisco Ballet, we have in the I think it's still there in the company locker room. There's also a physical therapy room, and we had quite a few brilliant physical therapists that really, when I look back on it, were more than just physical therapists. They were actually therapists,
Yeah.
and they in their position weren't afraid to try to paint a picture for me to communicate. For example, I can fix this for you right now. You'll be out on stage in the next day or two, but I guarantee you're going to be right back in this room, even worse within 3 days. or I can sit here and fix this, but you can also, and I can also teach you the things that you need to do to get better, and showing you a variety of choices so you don't end up back here and maybe going out there and it's not, the next show is not the best thing. I wouldn't recommend that. You need to communicate to, that sort of come from someone who, a physical PT person who's older than I am, that's or seeing lots of injuries.
Yeah.
At least that PT person can give me some balance, or you really need to see. And there just were a lot of things that weren't available back then that are available now.
Right.
You know,
Well, yeah.
MRI can
Yeah.
tell you right off the bat whether you tore something or not. Just a lot of things. That not just simple X-ray can show, or they were things that were super expensive or not as readily available. Everybody can get an MRI now.
Right.
It wasn't so easy back when I was dancing when dinosaurs were on the land. Um, so I mean, that segues into when we talk to young dancers and we say you need to learn how to network better. To me, networking also means communicating better, learning how to talk to your ballet, your dance captain or ballet master. I know that's not the appropriate title now. It's another name, but the people, the assistant director, whoever, other people that you can communicate to, letting them know really where you're at. And as a young dancer, one of the tricks that I learned to always do was paint a picture to the person who was in power to delegate communicating my situation. I always try to find a way that was like, do you remember when you were young and you went through an injury?
Yeah.
Or try to paint a picture that you find a way in to get them to understand what I'm going through. There's a difference between painting that picture so they can better appreciate what's going on, or just coming up to them whining and panicking. And that doesn't get anywhere. You know what I mean? Or being so angry at the situation that you feel that they put you in, but they may not, whatever, that you end up screaming at them, and then that's not going to work well at all.
Right.
So learning the right ways to communicate and understanding that each person that you're talking to has a different way of operating. So, this person might have a short attention span, or they're really busy. So I know I'm going to have like 1 minute to get what I need to say. This person really likes to be able to sit down and listen and wants me to delve in deeper. This person is looking right now purely from a casting and so and so. So I might also remind them that these three dancers are also doing my role. I know this person also knows to remind you, and just things, learning to communicate and creating an environment to help them help you
Yeah.
figure out this situation and want to help you. You know what I mean, Max? There's nothing better than having a mentor or the person that has, I keep using the word power, but it really is. You can feel so helpless and feel like they hold all the strings in your future, but finding ways to get them to understand and want to work with you and want to help you and want to help you solve your injury, or want to remember, that time when I was your age, I kind of went through something similar. This helped, help them figure out a way to help you. And that's
Yeah.
an important thing. And not to over communicate, like I clearly am doing on this podcast. I'm battling half the
Oh,
time,
it's
but
good. It's good.
to learning to get them dialed into you, which is
Yeah.
networking, which is communicating. You want the choreographer to feel comfortable around you. You want the director to feel comfortable around you and see you as the next dancer up. I want that dancer to be the next soloist in my company. I have to start thinking of who are the next dancers over the next decade. They're going to take these spots. It could even be, you don't even realize it, they may be looking at you to see how you're managing an injury, because everybody gets injured. Right. Are you going to run out there and you think the best thing is I'm going to go out there and just kill myself, and show how tough I am. You hurt yourself more, versus they may not be happy with you at first, but I'm going to take a step back, let somebody else do this and take care of my body and show that I can be responsible in taking care of myself. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you said a few things that keep sticking out to me. One is mentors. The other is networking. I feel it is such, like, going through an injury like that as a young person is such an accelerated maturation process. I mean, it's an enormously difficult thing for anyone to go through at any age. And you were kind of talking about like these perceived power imbalances, but it seems like one of the things you're saying, if you're willing to communicate, if you're willing to kind of reach out to these people, these mentor type people, it kind of takes away a little bit of that power imbalance. This is something we've discussed on here a lot, is that yeah, you may have you've had an illustrious dance career, and especially to these younger dancers, they may see you as way up here, and but if they reach out to you or Wes or someone and communicate with you, they'll find that you're all rooting for them, and you all kind of have an emotional investment in these young people's career. And we were talking about generational differences and networking. Is that something that you see that's a bit different today? Is there a
Absolutely, I'm
lagging?
not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to say it. I'll probably get called out for this, but I'll say it. Sometimes you have to be brave. This generation is not the, they are not always fantastic at communicating
Yeah,
one on one, face to face. And here's the flip side of that. I hold my generation slightly responsible for creating this all these digital platforms where they're
yeah,
spending more time in front of a screen. They can some of these kids can explain better in a text how they're feeling than they can be face to face with somebody and communicate with them.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's a problem. That's a generational problem, and that's attached to this generation is they've not known what it's like not to grow up with a device.
right.
Think about that.
It's
They've
hard
never
to
grown up
imagine.
without a phone. That's nuts to me when I really
Yeah,
think about it. And even on the flip side of the reverses often happen when we try to make things better as well, meaning we try to make things better and simpler. You can order Uber Eats, you can go anywhere in the world on your phone. I mean, and things are quicker. You don't have to work so hard here and there. That's isn't that better? Well, it's is and it's not, because then you start chasing goals that are the easiest way to get to something without doing the work,
right.
which are how many likes define who I am out there, and creating these alternate personalities and realities that don't really reflect truly who you are, and they're always monetized in the cleanest, perfect way without any imperfections. And as an artist, imperfections expose perfection, meaning a mistake to a lot of these kids can often mean I did something wrong, I'm bad. But a mistake is I fell out of my turn. How do I find a way to get on my leg? I like talking a lot about failing forward. Failure is not failure as in bad. Failure is an opportunity maybe to see another door open.
Right.
Failure is a way to fail forward and to question, how can I get better? Failure might mean, if you really want something, go, you see a famous screenplay writer, director, you're like, go up to them and tell them, be brave and communicate to you. There's surprises come in that. Maybe they might laugh at you and go, oh my God, give me a break. This is what you need to do. You're nowhere close, whatever. Come back to them the next day with 4 pieces of scraggly paper with your outline of your screenplay onto them. That might impress them, and they might say, wow, this person came back to me with this. This is a mess. This isn't how you do it. But now I'm interested in them. I want to see, help them more. If you fall out of a turn, you should not be beating yourself up. You should be asking yourself, how can I find a way to find my balance? How can I delve deeper in myself? So failure to me, I've manifested into a good word.
Yeah.
I have dyslexia. I've had dyslexia since I was a child. When I was young, you had dyslexia. It wasn't, you were, it was looked as something bad, that you were never going to be fixed of it. It was something that was going to hinder you, hold you back from being like a normal person. So all these, which I absolutely hate, and I think it's a load of crap. But when I realized, so I would go into classes and be like, I pick up choreography slower than everybody else. How the hell am I going to become a dancer if I can't pick up choreography?
Right.
And what it meant is that while you were out at Chick-fil-A watching Netflix, I was back at my dorm room going over the choreography like a crazy person,
Yeah.
till like I learned it so well, it's in my bones. But then I began to realize you can't really be great at anything by just learning at face value. You got to learn it deep within
Yeah.
yourself. So I would come back and do the choreography, and it might be better than someone else because I delved in that extra layer of really digging into myself, which only was being done because of a flaw or what was perceived as a flaw or something that I wasn't good at. I made my weakness a strength. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so flaws, failures, all those things to me are opportunities to spin it forward in a positive way. So I say fail forward, fail often, clear your head of worrying about if somebody else is looking at you. They ain't looking at you. They're freaking out over trying to pick up the language too. Focus on yourself. Be brave um, to ask questions.
Yeah.
How do I balance my checkbook? How did that person become successful? What are they doing? Maybe it might be sitting down and going up to the studio, Christensen studio, which I did a lot at San Francisco Ballet, and just sit on my hour off and watch 70 of the greatest dancers not do a performance, watch them bicker and battle in a rehearsal, and this couple work this part out, and this person clearly have challenges, seeing the process of how they process information and seeing that it's through tons of mistakes and challenges and figuring things out and working with different partners. And that stuff is all gone when you're monetizing this perfect ideal of what you're supposed to be on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah.
disconnected from being in a room with other human beings, communicating, problem solving,
Right.
debating.
Yeah.
All those things disappear by us all going in these little bubbles on our
Yeah.
devices. So that's what I mean about that being a problem, as far as a problem that I see a lot of this generation has. And there are a lot that don't have that, trust me, but it is a high percentage because of how we have set them up with these brilliant devices in digital land, which are a great thing, and they are one of our biggest problems.
Yeah.
I don't know
Uh,
if it all made sense.
Absolutely. I mean, you see the reports now and the studies on young people with mental health problems, and it's. I have some younger family members, and I've said to them repeatedly, I don't envy the position you're in growing up at the time you're growing up. I could not imagine going through adolescence and the just natural difficulties of that, and then throwing into the mix social media and putting on a public image when you're a relatively unknown person at 10, 12, 13
Yeah.
years old. I could not imagine the difficulties. But as you were saying, the in person connection is not something that can be duplicated outside of being in person. And it's hard to, not to get too existential here, but it's beyond something that we can even quantify with words. With the human interaction, I mean, there's chemical exchanges just going on, being in someone's presence. There's an innate kind of empathy that you have with someone in person that you don't have when you see just an image of them online or whatever. Which is another thing when you talk about the difficulties of being young, the bullying and the the harassment that they deal with, which would not be experienced to that degree in person. People are just naturally more sympathetic and empathetic in person. And I think about every great connection I've ever made with someone or any opportunity I've ever had. It was either a direct result or a secondary result of making a connection in person, face to face, having a conversation with someone, and then someone after that conversation saying, I kind of like this guy. I'll give him a chance to do this. Or, yes, I'd like you to be a host of a dance show. None of that has happened for me. I can't think of any real significant opportunities I've got through social media. It's always been something in person. And I almost wonder if we've gotten so far to the point where ease became this monetized thing that, like you said, our generation before us created this world. You see, like, kids now have this nostalgic for the 90s, an era that they didn't even live in. But there's movies now that are 90s based and trends coming back from the 90s. I have the hope, and I wonder if you agree that the in person, there's something so human about us and so universal and so innate that it's always going to try to make its way into the zeitgeist. And I wonder if we're hopefully
Yeah,
getting to that point.
I think what's old becomes new again, and what's new becomes old again.
Yeah,
So
well put.
I know fear there's a lot of fear of AI, but there's let me so much. Don't get me wrong. I love social media. I just think that it's a tool that one has to learn how to maneuver and make work for them. That's a lot harder to do. It's hard enough as an adult.
Yeah,
I can only imagine what it must be like for a young teenager. So that's part of the problems. Where are the boundaries? Where are the walls?
Yeah.
And how can we come along as a society to figure that out? It's a challenge, and it affects everything. Um, but I don't want to bash on social media because, for example, for my Duncan Cooper workshops, for branding, if you use it right, it's an incredible tool.
Yeah.
It's an incredible connective tool. So I think there are two sides to it, and one has to figure out how to use that. I think with the whole AI thing coming up, same sort of thing. I don't think people will ever, for example, with dance, at least I don't know. I don't see people abandoning the theater to go watch some ballet dancers on AI.
No.
For example, I think live theater will always be important, and I do think there may be some. When you're living in such a digital world, sometimes you crave for just the opposite or modern world, like going camping and
Yeah.
watching the sunset and being around trees and not having, electrical Bunsen burner, having to actually start your own fire and just things. Yeah, I think there can be a complete upheaval to that and people search for the opposite things.
Yeah.
So yeah, live communication come back even stronger. You may even be seeing small jobs that become really, really important. Like we could see plumbers and hairdressers, things that AI can't do, could become really popular and expensive. Weird things happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, that is
so
the trades are really kind of now. I mean,
yeah,
younger people are being told to kind of, hey,
yeah,
consider being an electrician, consider being a
right. So
plumber.
you
And
remember back then that wasn't so cool, and
no,
now
no,
those those are the things to go to school for and have a really great, living from.
yeah,
So yeah, you just never know how things flip on the end of that. I just hope that each of us takes it upon ourselves to pass it forward, whatever that means in our lives, to somebody else. At the end of the day, your kids grow up, they leave you, they have their own lives. Money comes and goes. You have your house, you don't have your house. You young and you grow old and you die. I know that
yeah,
sounds really horrible. It's like, oh my God, it's dramatic. But the point is that what is it that we're passing on? Sometimes is a culture or a history or knowledge within those concepts
yes,
that then inspire the next generation to pass it forward, move forward in a positive way, um, helps them to then, through our past experiences, navigate whatever it comes in front of them. And that could be done by dance.
yeah,
It doesn't just have to, you don't have to be out of your genre to do that. There are so many things just within the dance world that have helped me, if move my life forward.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But it takes people to help them see it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You can get stuck in the dance world and not see how all these skill sets you're learning and all these experiences can quantify into moving you forward to somewhere you want to be. I know plenty of people that were maybe not the best dancers that ended up having incredible careers in finance or other areas that will all tell you that it all started from the building blocks that they acquired in the dance studio
yeah,
or recreational sport. As far as honing a work ethic, a process to which they approach their work or their lives, or how they learn to problem solve, learn how to see things as so dark as a positive. I can't tell you how many young dancers during COVID, they were acting like it was going to be the end of the world. And yes, it could have been, but you just, why are we going down that tunnel so fast? We have to problem solve the
yeah,
situation in front of us. You and I have gone through the AIDS epidemic, all these other challenging things that we thought were going to be the end of the world. You go back to, there's always been something for each generation. And the way you get through those things is community, interconnection,
yeah,
finding positive ways to still carry things forward, even with all the challenges that I'm not going to bring up, obviously, that we're going through now in this country. Finding ways which we can interconnect with each other, finding ways to really listen, not just sit there and wait till they're done so I can keep yapping again. I didn't really hear what they said. Those things, learning to interconnect with each other, learning to find the similarities in each other, learning to embrace things that might be different from me, but maybe not totally agreeing with the way you do things, but there are a couple things that you do that made me rethink about how I'm doing things to move things forward. And finding those common grounds, which we all can move forward as a community, as a country, as a people, as a planet. And one of those things is dance.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that whether it's ballet or wherever, I mean, different cultural dances, it is a form which is done all over the world, whether for spiritual reasons or artistic reasons or family reasons or a wedding or a reunion or whatever it might be. It's a connector. And I just wish that we continue to find ways to connect ourselves moving forward, find empathy within that to help each other, find our ways through it, and also from one generation to another, find ways that we can help the next generation move forward. And we can also learn from them. I learn from younger dancers every day. They brighten up my day. They challenge me. And in some cases, they may not be the ones that are all doom and gloom. You're old, you get jaded. You've seen it before. You
Yeah.
see, a young dancer does something, you're just like, wow, I'm so inspired by them. You want to keep it in the context of ballet. I can't tell you how many Romeo and Juliets I've seen in Swan Lakes, and part of me is like, oh my god, I have to watch another Romeo. And there's part of me that's like that. But then you go into the theater and I see this couple do Romeo and Juliet, and I'm in full tears. It's like I've seen it for the first time. I remember like what it felt to be in love, and I'm like, and I'm re-inspired. I'm re-inspired.
Yeah.
As a young dancer, I told you, I go up to the Christian studio and I watch these three different couples do the pas de deux, one ballet, and each of them does it so individually but so inspiringly. And I get why I'm doing all those damn degages and tendus to death downstairs to where like to nausea, I shoot myself. And I have the luxury of going up to the studio and watching and seeing that and being like, yes, I'll go back down there and do my, I'm ready to do frappes down there because that can happen.
Yeah.
Finding those connections are important. Not everybody had the privilege of being at San Francisco Ballet and could go up to Christensen Studio. As an educator, I have to find ways under the whole thing we're talking about to inspire dancers moving forward. Whether it's an adult ballet class, whether it's a bunch of commercial dancers that can't stand ballet, how can I inspire them and motivate them to get them to realize that it's something that will help and aid them forward? I'm still inspiring. I'm still motivating. It's anybody can teach a class.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to be able to motivate and inspire your dancers, inspire your students to want to be informed, to want to be curious and educated, to want to come into the next day, the next class, and to want to inspire themselves to be there, to ask the questions, to be unafraid to ask it, to be unafraid to what we've been talking about this whole thing, to connect, right? We're talking about human connection, and that often it's not this monetized perfect thing on social media. Sometimes it's a little challenging. You've got to learn to debate, communicate, question, make mistakes, realize failures and failures. It's part of the process to move you forward. All that stuff is things that we as educators, through a tendu or through a science class, have to somehow find that invisible, tangible thing that helps them be inspired to move forward in any circumstance.
Yeah.
I don't know if that all makes sense.
No, that was beautifully put.
Way too much green tea.
No, that was beautifully put. I like a lot of things you said, but one you mentioned. I almost think because of everything you're talking about, that live performance, live theater, and dance is going to become even more important in the digital age and the AI world we are in now. Because, like you said, I don't see ever a time where people are going to go to the theater to watch AI holograms do Romeo and Juliet. I don't. That's not why you go to the theater. And I think it's going to become, for all the things we were saying, I think that's going to become even more important and popular in the years to come. And also what you were saying about and this is a talking point I wanted to bring up with you because I announce the classes generally if my flight gets in and on time for the teachers. I give a nice little introduction to the teacher, and it's kind of a way to, it's just a nice way to start the class and everything. Generally, I then go into the green room and have cafecito and snacks. So but in in Shanghai,
Where Duncan is already fully to the
yeah,
cafeteria on the
where
stand.
they've already been picked over. But in Shanghai, the way it worked out is I ended up kind of watching a lot of the classes backstage. And what I found really remarkable about your class in particular with the younger kids is they really got quite an inspiration and a kick out of you. And you were so good at communicating with really young dancers. And I've heard other judges say, um, you know, they'll even maybe switch if they're assigned to a younger class. Oh, I'm kind of better off with the older kids, and they just don't know how quite to be comfortable communicating with them or whatever. Um, you were fantastic, and I actually stopped and watched your class, which like I said I don't generally do. And then afterwards, the appreciation that those young dancers in Shanghai had for you, I mean, stopped and took pictures with you and all that. What do you think it is about your upbringing, your personality, your philosophy? You were talking about how important you feel like it is to give back to future generations. What do you think it is that kind of makes you so effective at working with the young dancers like that?
I made a promise to myself many years ago that if I became a teacher, that I was going to constantly find ways to connect with dancers the way I wanted to be connected to when I
Mm,
was their age, and I wasn't connected to. Um, I just, I don't know. I lose myself. I, sometimes when you're dancing, I know here you go. Like, where is he going with this? But there are a few times when I was dancing where, like, many times where it's as if time stands still, and like it's sort of like when you hear football players say everything slows down,
it's like a flow state.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible, and I lose myself in the moment, and that happens to me teaching all the time. I mean, I can count the grains of sand that Ariana, my wife's come over to me and been like, "You're 15 minutes late," because I lose. I'm so involved in what I'm doing, loving what I'm doing. That's a magic that I think we all search for in our jobs, is to love what we do so much that we're not staring at the clock for it to be over, that we're just
Yeah.
lost in that moment. To be able to do that with kids who are our future is so important. I look at myself as a mentor, as a teacher to student, but there are moments when I don't talk to them like that. I talk to them as one human being to another. So I try not to be so hoity-toity that they can't connect to me.
Right.
I'm finding we go back to it, going back to it again, connecting points.
Yeah.
How would I want to be, but there are times I'll be very stern with them, but I'll always bring it back and try to communicate to them why I'm being stern to them.
Hmm.
Or it's yin and yang, pulling back and forth. Parents just want kids to have the best opportunities they can have, and so you're constantly searching for things to help their kids connect and get out of themselves. And so I'm mindful of that all the time. I don't approach class anymore like when I first, years and years and years ago, did, where I I guess it's because I don't care whether if they become a professional dancer or not. I care if they can hopefully walk away with my class a little bit more inspired to approach the next day. I want them to be better human beings, even if they don't. Yeah, I've had people come up to me years later and tell me, "Man, years ago I took your class and that just really made me rethink something or being re-inspired by something." I mean, you can get the technique from anybody, but can you do something with the technique that you've been taught to help human beings move forward?
Yeah.
young little souls grasp a little stronger sense of their identity, for them to realize, which I didn't realize, I have more power at 10, believe it or not, or 15, to move my life forward than I realized. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize that back then. I was so fearful, so confused, so terrified at times. You know, guidance and direction is so important, and there are so many ways to do it, and it doesn't have to always be done by scolding a student. If you're going to teach kid mathematics, give them a damn reason to understand why they're learning the mathematics. Don't forget that. That if you want to be that video game or you want to build that building over there, you've got to be able to be good at mathematics. Show them where it leads to. Show them what can come out of that. And show them that even if they never get to where they might get to, which is what you're going to have to deal with seniors sometimes, because seniors, that's a point where they're either realizing their dream's going to come true, or, oh my God, what did I just spend all this time doing this dance stuff for and not taking the AP classes? I'm not going to be dancing with Taylor Swift, or
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a ballet. And you start, you know, sometimes not working as hard. You rebel because you feel like you've been told a lie. That's where, besides just spinning the technique, I feel it's a little bit of my responsibility in a magical way to remind them why they did all that work, and to remind them that it's not hopeless, that there is something still out there for you. Here's all these skill sets you learn. Here's how they can be transferable in whatever you do. Oh, by the way, here's so-and-so I danced with at San Francisco Ballet who's running a huge hedge fund. Like I told you, who communicated that that wouldn't have been possible if they didn't go through what they did in their younger years. Or this person who's did makeup for Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, an incredible Hollywood makeup artist, or Yumiko Dancewear, who was at San Francisco Ballet, but that somehow was the thing that also, I remember when she would look at Clinton, and now she's got one of the best uh, dance lines there is out there. So like showing them examples that where you may think you wanted to go may not happen, but that doesn't mean that all these other possibilities aren't there, that you're not even looking at, because you've got your headlights focused just in this one direction, but you're not looking at everything else that's possible around you. That's our job above
Yeah.
and beyond. I really feel that's my job. And so if that's just communicating a sense of confidence and joy, or go ahead and, you know, find yourself within the movement. Finding yourself within the movement. Make mistakes. Don't worry about the next, you know, person. Making some funny, self-deprecating things, reminding them when I was young that
Yeah.
I'm this person that you put up on a pedestal, but I was just like you. I had dyslexia. I got bullied. I got beat up in school and left the last, you know, class at my school in San Francisco, running to the train to get to San Francisco Ballet School because I knew there's a guy waiting to beat me up. Like I've been you. I'm not you, but I've gone through my own experiences. Turn around and look at the parents. They were all those. They were not perfect. They were you. Really, they were me once. Like just those little moments are just as important as teaching the technique. They can enlighten a technique. They can give them reason to take the technique to the next example level. So that's important. A work ethic, a process, being able to inspire themselves within themselves. And you know, again, tooting my own horn, but I feel like people kind of get that when they see me teach.
Absolutely.
I don't think I do anything better than anybody else. It's just my way. And I'm sure you'll find plenty of people tell you they hate my class.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
fine too.
yeah, sure.
Teachers who, I've had teachers whose classes, and I mean hate in different ways, like Willie Berman's class, Steps in Broadway. I hated his class with all my life because it was so damn hard, but I know I needed to be in his class.
Hmm.
I respected him. I always took a deep breath at that door. I always took the later class, walked past the doorway, and I saw him roll his eyes, and he's like, "You know, you should be in this class." You know, but it was a respect thing. It was the hard thing for me to do. That way of moving. So I had to really bring myself in there to get in there. But there's a lesson within that. So, and I teach very differently based also upon who I'm teaching. My approach to professionals is different than young students. My approach with 7 and 8-year-olds is obviously different than a senior class.
Sure.
Those different levels change based beyond what I'm being presented with. That's another thing that I've learned to get better at, which is that reading the room and reading what I'm going to have to deal with. I might have an incredible combination and realize that the dancers are not going to be able to do it, and I have to switch in the moment. I might realize that I'm in a contemporary setting, commercial dancers that are not good at ballet, so we're going to bring it down a level and spend time, simplifying it and communicating to them why this is important. I might be in with some professionals. They won't hear about all that yeah about inspiring. I have that enough. It's about just teaching the class, teaching a solid class that's preparing them for a performance. That we don't have time for all that other stuff. They just want something that's not too tricky, but want something that makes them feel confident and comfortable and on their leg. So you have to, as you get older, because I am a dinosaur, you've learned to figure those things out, and that means putting yourself out there. I have to learn to put myself out there. I have to learn to not be afraid to learn from everybody else. I learn every day I'm in the room with David and Lisette. I learn every day I'm in the room with my wife. I learn every day from my dog. I learn every day from every student in my class. Every day I wake up as an opportunity and a challenge to learn more about how to improve myself. And often I fail constantly. Balance in life is not, we have this idea that we want to obtain balance, and once you're there, you just sit on that ledge. You're going to fall to either side like Humpty Dumpty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Balance is not a constant. It's a thing we all struggle for in our lives, whether it's work and personal life. But it's the striving for, which is so important. It's anyway.
Well, I think you just said something really important there, is that I think I definitely had this idea as a young person that someday I was going to get to this place, this, this place of enlightenment after doing all this work, after doing, going through the trenches, and then I was going to get there and life was going to be nice and I was going to be a wise sage from that point forward. And, that's not how life is at all. It is a constant, but it is a constant challenge, and it
But
is a
who's to say
constant.
you won't get there?
Yeah,
Who's to say you won't get there, even at your age? Who's to say that you won't still be a feature star in a film?
yeah.
How many? I can easily right now, being a film person like you, name about 20 actors that didn't get their first huge success until they were in their 40s.
Oh yeah.
Like, your story is still not written until the day
No,
you're in the grave. You
absolutely.
still have to be open to all those things.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think a
Me
life,
too.
I think a life in the arts, and particularly dance, like you were saying, so many people who were not professional dancers that went on to be great successes in life. Because I think what I've observed with dance as an outsider now, kind of being on the inside a little bit, having hosted for all these years, is that it is this striving for perfection that you're never going to achieve, but the pursuit of that is so enriching. It is so fortifying for your character. I mean, just the sheer discipline that dancers have. I've observed. Musicians and actors. Yes, there is a discipline. You go to classes. You work on movement and stuff like that. Dancing, to me, is slightly different in the sense that you can't hide your body on a stage. You can't. Your whole entire instrument is your body, and
Can't wear knee brace on stage.
no, and there's
You're
and there's no one going to be editing that video out, to make you look great and taking the bad parts out and doing
right.
the close up here. You cannot. Your whole body at all times is your instrument and is on full display, and I think the discipline required to be a dancer at any kind of level of proficiency is going to put you so far ahead of the general population when it comes to the professional world in any arena.
Well, can we equate that to being an actor as you are, and equating it to what we had a conversation about too, live performance versus film?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? The magic that anything can go wrong at any time,
Hmm.
that you rehearse to bring down the percentages of things going wrong so small that you can apply to adapt and to manage them in the moment. That's the excitement of live theater
Yeah.
for an artist too, you know? And it might even be a simple thing like, I remember one time I hurt my foot literally before the curtain went up. And I was like, oh my God, this just not just happened. I can't put weight in my front foot. And I had to literally call on something else in myself to find a way through all the technical things. I remember one time I was so sick throwing up on tour, and I delirious. There was no cover. I had to go out there on stage and I could barely stand up, and it was horrible. But I had one of the best performances I've ever had. Sometimes how sort of these crisis situations can inspire something other in you to find. I would not suggest every young dancer to do that. It's not what I'm
No.
saying.
No.
but you again have more power in yourself to find a way through. All your years of experience are, in my opinion, are ways to help you through those moments. And that these moments, that's what I try to equate to a lot of young dancers is like nothing is ever perfect. If you could see the chaos that goes on backstage and the preparation, same thing with live theater or even a
Hmm.
movie, they just see the beautiful monetized video and
Right.
Beyonce with the puff jack. They don't see her panicking over the new young artist coming up and all the rehearsals and trying to lose weight, get in shape,
Sure.
or just all the stuff, ate all that things. I mean, it's that sort of chaos has an organized chaos sense in it. Like you have to be comfortable. What am I saying? It's being comfortable, learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable and finding your way through. That's the real deal.
Yeah.
So again, finding ways to make all those experiences that they're having now make sense for later is super important. It's super important to me.
And so
Um,
valuable. And there's not going to be any circumstance in life that you can't handle if you have that kind of upbringing. Because, like what you were talking about, one of the fascinating things that I love about live performance is that yes, you rehearse and you train to get the margin of error down to as slim as possible, but then you have to have the malleability and openness when things go wrong to adapt in that moment. And the
way
count
back, yeah,
and the counterintuitive thing is that I can think about plays I've been in, movie, whatever. That adaptability in that moment was actually the best thing that could have happened, and it worked out just fine.
right.
But if there,
And that you wouldn't have been ready for that
no,
if you
no,
didn't go through all the experiences you had. And here's the other thing with that, what you're saying is that when those moments come, like, yeah, you are going to freak out, and that's
hmm,
okay. Or you might have an anxiety moment. Oh my God. Like, there's no time where you become so much of a professional that it just never happens anymore.
right,
You know what I mean? You should realize that you at every age are going to have those human experiences. It's being able to get past after that, what you do after that.
yeah,
Do you say two or three lines that have nothing to do with the play and your partner's looking at you about to crack up at themselves and they
right,
say a line that leads you back there? Do
yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I'm saying? You have a long pause, but you find your way back. That those those experiences get you back on track, and that you are going to have moments where you panic. You still will have moments where you're nervous at 35 going out on stage.
yeah,
Um, I also want to say this: it's important for dancers to realize, young dancers, that you are, it can be a guide for you a guiding light throughout your entire life. However, do realize that most dance careers are short. Most football careers are short. Um, so it's that I realized that, and that I was terrified when my career seemed to be over and I didn't know where I was going to go. That motivates me to get them to realize how all the things that they're doing in classes can be mini metaphors for how to move them forward in their lives, because there is going to be a time when you're not going to dance anymore and you're going to have to make a choice. Do I find something else within the dance world to move forward in, or do I go a completely different direction? And that, again, besides getting you to professional careers where all those things you can consciously and unconsciously reflect back to, those experiences can be guiding lights to help you move forward to find yourself wherever you end up. Does that make sense?
absolutely,
If you allow them to, and if you have the right people around you to help to guide you.
yeah.
So
Well, I one of the things that Lisette and I and David and I talked about when doing this podcast is that we kind of wanted to a little bit peel back the curtain of the competition and show dancers the humanness of you guys, the judges, because I think
yeah,
it's easy for people to look at you as these authority figures and, oh my God, Duncan is my teacher. He's going to be scoring my routine. But you've talked so much about mentors and how important it is to kind of see you guys as a version of them from however many years ago, that you were in these circumstances and that you know what it's like and you're rooting for them. And I love the term you use, mini metaphors. And I think dance
Mm.
art has so many of those things that any dancer who is on this journey should be proud of themselves and should have a degree of confidence in who they are, because they are exposing themselves to these mini metaphors. That if you're not on this artistic path, you're kind of, or you're not an athlete, or you're not pursuing something like that, you don't get to experience. And then when you're 35 or you're 32, and things in work start to not be perfect, and your career you have to pivot because there's a new technology, or you get laid off, or whatever it is, that's your first time dealing with it. And you don't have all these, like you said, mini metaphors that kind of help you along your way, that you've been
You
dealing
know,
with since you're young.
for me, life is art, and
Yeah,
art is life.
yeah,
I think if you're in finance, people on the highest level that can see numbers and certain things and ebbs and flows, that's an art.
hmm,
I think a good doctor that finds a way through to fix a heart in ways that no one ever seen before,
yeah,
that's an art. I believe everything is an art. Art is a word which I've transformed into life.
hmm,
Life is art, and art is life. I believe strong. That's why, in many ways, as much as there's not a judge out there that wants you to feel like, if you, I always okay. So I always say this in answers. What are you gonna? What do you? How? If not everybody can win. There's one winner, and then
hmm,
everybody else is a little less than that. And young dancers have to be careful of over emphasizing that as everything.
yeah,
Like, if I don't win, I'm terrible. I suck. I'm not good. There's an analogy I use with them all the time, which is that what are you actually growing from and getting better in from? The solo that you've been doing for 10 years that you could do in your sleep, that you won every award in, the Blueberry Sparkle Quest 2000 award, Sparkle Arena Championship award,
yeah,
like the highest of the high, or the solo, maybe you didn't score really high on it. You were stressed out dancing it, but you had to work so hard to move in that way. You improved in your stamina and your strength. It's so far from the way you dance. You grew so much from that, but you didn't get the high score from that.
yeah,
Which one are you actually growing from? What is the point of being here ultimately? To constantly collect trophies? Is that what's going to move you forward? Or and don't get me wrong, I like to win, but it is a snapshot of the moment of your greatness. And it's
yeah,
not the only thing that defines your greatness. It's not the only thing that defines you as an artist. Everything is a process to move you forward. And sometimes you go out there and you have something that you don't score high in, but you've won because you got out on stage and did something you thought you'd
yeah,
never do.
yeah,
Yeah. And next time you're going to be that much better because you've had that experience. That's the reward. And next time after that, you're going to get better. And then you're going to have an opportunity. So growth and the idea of winning is something which I like to debate them on, to rethink, reevaluate how they see it.
yeah.
Because what are you going to do with your reward anyway? Where's your reward going to go?
It's gonna hang
It's
hang
going to
on
go
the
up on your wall over there.
right, right,
It's going to hang on your wall.
yeah,
Right. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. I have pictures of me dancing hang on the wall. I have some awards. I have my Lew Christensen thing. But that is that moment. Now, how do I carry that forward? And at the end of the day, no one really cares about that in audition. They care about what you can do in the audition right now. Can you do the choreography that we need to do right now? Do you understand what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, absolutely,
So there are plenty of dancers that have never won anything that are professional dancers.
right,
There are plenty of dancers you have to keep it in balance. For me, a competition is an opportunity to win, but also to experience seeing other dancers from other studios perform that you may have never seen perform because you're stuck in your studio. It's an opportunity to meet other people, like communicate and connect, that you may see in the future. It's an opportunity to see how they're working in class. Wow, that person does this way. I never thought of doing that way. Yeah, it's an opportunity for all these incredible studios to meet in one space. sometimes even studio owners that heard about each other that might have a conversation at the wine and cheese. I'm having this sort of challenge with my studio. Oh, I have that challenge. Here's how I solve that challenge. I never thought of that. We never would have talked about those things. Maybe we never met. So I just think it's important that all of us, choreographers, teachers, judges, need to remind all ourselves of why we're here, and also help our future students. Each of them individually going through his, context is everything. Each of the contexts is a little different. Continue to help guide them forward. And parents, rethink sometimes, because we all get caught up in this idea that if I'm not winning, I'm losing,
Yeah.
and that's just not true.
Yeah.
So competitions are something. For me, it's an incredible gathering.
It is.
It's a gathering of people where we can all, and for me as a judge, I see people, educators I haven't seen before for a long time. Sometimes I see people that now, that have gone and create their own studio. It keeps the whole industry alive. It's a feeder for a lot of our future dancers. They get these moments of experience from teachers in class that are just as valuable what they're doing on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I even have to remember as a judge sometime that all of these dancers on stage, even the ones that are not scoring high, are out there. They're winners because they are having an experience that's growing each time they come out there. It's a beautiful thing to see.
It is.
You know what I mean? We never had competitions like this when I was dancing. It was either Jackson, the ballet competition, Prix de Lausanne, but those were like once a year or whatever. We never had these like every other week. So again, even competitions, it's important that we all find balance with it. You know what I mean? And that can be challenging sometimes for all of us, and find ways to keep it as a positive experience moving forward.
And I think you said something really important about winning, and we're kind of reframing for parents, teachers, everyone, reframing the idea of winning. I mean, it happens almost every week that there's a dancer who walks away with multiple scholarships that didn't win first place in a certain category. That happens
Right.
pretty consistently. So real quick, we'll kind of wrap up with our trip to Shanghai. It was a fascinating experience, I think, for all of us. It was really incredible going to the other side of the world
Incredible.
and putting
Yeah.
on a competition. I mean, it would be hard to convey to people the challenges that we had to deal with. I mean, this was something I had no idea. I mean, my electric razor in my hotel exploded because, you know, they have 240 watts of power coming out of their outlets. We typically have 120 here in the United States. That caused difficulties. I mean, Wi-Fi, there was technical
That would have
problems.
been a disaster for me. Look at my head.
I know.
Thank God my wife is the smart one who had that all figured out.
Yeah.
Mine would have blown up. It would have been a mess if it wasn't for Ariana.
Oh, it was quite a
So,
quite a shock when it happened. But and then just the language barrier, dealing with the theater crew, having you're having a dispute about how to set something up, and you have to show them your phone, for the Google Translate.
yeah.
I mean, just that alone was challenging. And then once the competition started, once the classes started, it just felt like another UBC event. How did you enjoy the experience going to Shanghai?
There were a lot of challenges in Shanghai, but what I love the most is when, at the end of the day, we all find common grounds to connect to.
Yeah,
Again, the human experiences, to see the faces of maybe some people didn't quite understand what we do because they don't know who we are, get it once we have it all set up.
yeah,
You can see the value of what we're doing, helping educate future artists and dancers to move forward. They get it
yeah,
at the end of the day. That's just a beautiful thing. That is transferable in any culture. It is transferable beyond language barriers. Again, art, bringing people together, something that we can connect on, move forward from, be proud of, share with, and motivate other people. And regardless if you're from a different country or a different race, there are just some base things that we all want out of life, which is to find things that help our kids move forward in life.
yeah,
I mean, there's just so many of them that again, these are the hidden gems of what a competition brings, which is above and beyond a competition. It's so much more. That's what I mean
Yeah, yeah,
by what I was saying before winning and losing. And the best competitions do that. You walk away. It's nothing better to me than knowing a dancer didn't score high or whatever, and the parents say, "Oh, they didn't do so well," but you know what? She or he had such a wonderful experience here that the whole thing, my kid walked away not feeling, feeling a little bit more empowered or learned something above and beyond just winning and losing on stage. The overall value of what a UBC brings is something truly remarkable, and it can only be experienced by coming to one and experiencing it.
yeah,
And that's why I do. That's why I'm a part of this. Um, is because of what David and Lisette have created. It's truly something magical, and it is something. It is a legacy piece. Not a lot of people can leave behind a legacy in a way that David and Lisette are leaving it behind, and doing it the right way, with their sense of values. It is something that's truly inspiring to anybody. But you have to come to it to see it and get it, and you have
yeah,
to
I would agree.
put
Yeah,
yourself in the wrong.
yeah. I've always
I don't
had.
mean to answer your
No, you
question.
did. No,
Sorry.
I was just. It made me think of something, so it was a valuable answer to the question because I've obviously always had an admiration and a love and respect for David and Lisette and UBC. Um, this experience kind of gave me a bit of a new perspective on what we do, and
Yeah.
not to toot our own horn here, but it did kind of make me go, wow, we really have something here. To see the level of appreciation that the Chinese dancers had for us being there. I'll go back to your class. I mean, I don't even I don't know how many pictures you were asked to take after your class. I mean, the excitement that they had. I mean, once the award ceremony started, how I mean, just to see how elegant and how much appreciation they had bowing when they came on stage, and then there was a really beautiful moment we had where this kind of connects to you personally, where I don't remember if it was the Legacy or the Aspire Award winner, but we're doing Evelyn is doing the interview with her after through the translator and asking her what her dream is in dance, and she says, I would love to go and train at San Francisco Ballet, and Grace Holmes, the director of the San Francisco Ballet School, is standing directly behind her as she says that. You're right next to her. Evelyn is the one asking her the question. And I think it was almost that moment where it kind of hit me, where it was just like, wow, maybe the regularity and the routine nature of when I start traveling and everything, it's like I'm in one city and it just moves so fast. It really hit me and kind of dawned on me like, wow, this is really special here. I mean, we have now like this international reputation, and not just an international presence, but this real deep admiration and appreciation by the people that we're here to kind of serve. And it was a really beautiful thing to see.
We are cultural ambassadors.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what we are. We're cultural ambassadors. And once again, right now, that's more important than anything else in the world. Finding reasons for us to connect and come together as a world.
yeah,
Yeah, finding similarities with each other is so important. That base. There are more things that we are alike about than we are different
right.
in this world. And in my opinion, art is one of those things that brings us together. It's something we can find a common ground upon and celebrate our differences within that. Um, Again, I mean, look at what David and Lisette have created. That to create something that brings people together and community together is so important and valuable. There is nothing greater to do in this world, in my opinion. You can't take all this, I'll say again, stuff with you, your cars and your houses, but be able to pass something down to the next generation. We're all here for a short period of time. To be able to pass that down through a craft or an art, whatever is your vehicle, that you have traveled through your life with, and then be able to pass that down to your children, and more so to your community, to the world. To me, that's what it's about. That is what it's about.
Yeah.
And helps the world find that balance through a world of empathy and communication and respect. That's the magic.
Yeah.
That's the magic. And that is what UBC is a part of. And that is what UBC did with going to China. We could have easily had a competition that didn't support a lot of those things.
Right.
But it's because of how much they value their sort of set of values and ethics, and how that's ingrained and weaved into the blanket, the cloth of UBC, that it becomes something bigger than a competition. And it becomes something more valuable, and it inspires these invisible, intangible things that we need to pass forward and down to the next generation through the process of competition. That's magic.
Yeah. And you talk about something really nice. For all of our perceived external differences or what, that competition, and by the time that award ceremony rolled around, I mean, it was so evident that even on the other side of the world, we are so much more connected and so much more alike than we are different. And
Yes.
once that competition got going, and once that show got going, and once we and the award ceremony was so beautiful, um, we there was a connection there. I mean, there it felt just like it could have been a UBC anywhere, and there was something. I mean, it's the Universal Ballet Competition, but it was a universal codifying experience that I'm really glad we did, and I think we're only going to continue to expand that. Yeah,
Universal.
it is.
Universal ballet competition. Everyone.
Yeah,
This map.
yeah,
One.
yeah,
It's about us all being together. That has been evident to me even from my childhood, being half black and half white, coming from at that time two very different viewpoints and culture, but very the same. I, we're we're all alike. We're all similar. We're all different, but we're all human beings, and we
yeah,
have so many. We all want a lot of the same things, no matter what culture or what country you come from. And it's important that we find common grounds to celebrate those things, to experience each other's different cultures, different approaches of techniques,
yeah,
whatever it might be, under certain umbrellas where we can all express that and learn from each other. And UBC is one of those places that you can do that. If you want to bring your dancer to a competition and for them to grow from the experience above and beyond just winning or losing, to have a real experience that if you guide them right through that experience, they should leave there inspired or possibly rethinking how they're approaching something in a positive way. That's what you should come to a UBC for. But you have to also come with it with the right mind state and a positive attitude, because if you don't, any experience you have is going to turn out bad. So
yeah. Well, Duncan, I think that's I could talk to you all day, as we
you
have
as
talked.
well.
But I just
I'll
want to
see you
thank you.
in the back of another van going somewhere to another UBC. We'll have
Yes,
another enlightening conversation.
yeah, and we'll bring the cameras for that. Um,
Yeah.
but I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I think you had a lot of absolute gems to share with the dancers listening, the parents, the coaches, the studio directors. You're a beautiful human being. You're inspiring. Like I said, it was really something to watch you work with the younger dancers teaching that class. I gained a whole new kind of level of respect and appreciation for what you do and who you are. Um, and I really enjoyed this, and I'm glad that we've crossed paths, and where I get to see you on a regular basis at the competitions. And like I said, thank you again for taking the time.
My friend, again, like I said, I'm learning every day my goodness, how much I've learned from you, and, all of my colleagues. I feel very blessed and grateful to be in the position that I am. I do not take it lightly. And yeah,
All right.
thank you for the opportunity to communicate with the world.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. All right,
On the
everyone.
Dancers Beat.
That's been this week of the Dancers Beat. Thank you for joining us. It's been a great conversation with my friend Duncan Cooper. Have a happy holidays. We're approaching the end of the year, and we'll see you at a UBC next year. All right. Thank you for joining
Yes.
us.
Bye.